Hello and welcome. It is Halloween time, and as such, I bring some cool and some not so cool horror manga, but I don't think I should be the only one reading horror manga this time of the year, so in this short video, I'm going to recommend you guys 5 horror anthologies for you to read in this spooky season. Now, manga anthologies are actually being something I mostly avoided when picking manga to read, but recently I've actually learned to appreciate a good structured compilation of short stories, especially if they are tied together via a unifying storyline, themes, or even honestly just its genre. And if you're a horror fan, anthologies are probably not even a new thing for you. They've been tied with the genre for a long time. From book series like Goosebumps to TV shows like The Twilight Zone to movies like the VHS or ABCs of Death, horror anthologies have long been a staple of the genre. In manga, the most popular horror mangaka in the West is Junji Ito, someone who has tons and tons of horror anthologies to his name, as he mostly writes one-shot stories. But I should also be upfront and tell you right now that in this video there's not gonna be any Junji Ito manga. Instead, we're gonna be focusing more on some niche cuts in the genre because, well, they need attention too. So without further ado, let's start with Miyako Kojima's Wonder House of Horrors. This is probably the collection that got me into exploring manga anthologies as a whole, so I wanted to start the video with it. I'm not necessarily saying that this is the best horror anthology out there, but Wonder House of Horrors does deliver with fun, short, and grotesque horror stories that all are tied together with themes of beauty and ugliness. The first story starts us right off in the right direction with the story of an extremely ugly girl being asked out by the oddest guy in the class. While this is no trick from his part, as you may have expected from others in the genre, the other girls in her class get really jealous and try to hunt her down, but they may not even be the main villain of this story. Most of the other stories in this short collection talk about someone that is really ugly and someone that is really beautiful actually interacting and befriending each other before jealousy takes a hold of them. One of the things that I really like about Wonder House of Horrors is that it's not always the pretty girl or the ugly girl that ends up being the bad guy. There's a little bit of everything. This also has a mixture of supernatural and not so supernatural stories, so some of these stories may include ghosts and apparitions, while others just have a character or two ending up being serial killers. Everything you need for a good Halloween night. Keeping us into the shoujo horror anthology, the next title is Maki no Gakyo Nishi, or Maki's School Larry, by Tsubaru Ueno. This one has an overarching story unifying all the short stories inside. Maki is a mysterious girl that lives inside the painting of the school's library, and throughout every chapter she tells us about stories that may have happened within the school grounds. If you're looking for something that may capture the urban legends and rumors that you may have heard in your own middle school, you know, from the spooky stories kids will tell each other about strange people or events that they may have seen, or speculation about what happened in the school at night, then this manga is for you. From ghosts of children passed away in the school, to people who can sense that and photographs that capture spooky things, this manga isn't here to innovate the genre. What it is instead is a manga full of classics for a good night of comfort horror. But if you're looking for something like that, but maybe a bit more recent and bigger in size, then maybe the currently ongoing 100 ghost stories that will lead to my death might be just for you. One manga that I expect many people to just write in comments asking why isn't in this list is PTSD Radio. And while I haven't actually read that one, I've read the previous anthologies by the same mangaka, Fuan no Tane and Fuan no Tane Plus, and honestly, I didn't like them much. But if you're a fan of those manga, I think you may enjoy 100 Ghost Stories, as it follows more or less the same concept, but in my opinion, has a much better execution. The plot of this one sees a boy named Yuma sharing 100 ghost stories to the reader, but with every new story that he shares, weirder and weirder things start happening around him in his own room. Each story is normally very short and concise, and as you should expect from anthologies as large as this one, it has its fair share of good stories as well as its fair share of duds. The stories that you may enjoy and may not will depend on your own tastes, but personally I find the ratio of good to bad to be pretty good. And the overarching story that is still ongoing right now is the kind of mystery that keeps me engaged and pushes this manga to be my favorite anthology of this video. Now, the next two are a little bit more heavy, if that's your thing. The first three manga are horror, and they have their fair share of spooky and gory stuff, but ultimately they are made for kids and teens. The next two, especially the last one, are a little bit more gory, and they do have nudity. Takashi Yosuke is a mangaka that has been doing horror since the late 70s, and while he hasn't really achieved the same level of success as someone like Junji Ito or even Kazuo Umezu, he has grown a gigantic catalog of horror stories, and most of them are anthologies and one-shot collections. One of them is 1997's Man-Eater. Now, this one is a bit more hard-hitting than the other ones in this video so far. It starts with the titular story with a woman seducing a man just to end up revealing herself to be a creature called Man-Eater and absolutely devouring the man. While the second story also involves kind of like a metaphoric man-eater, the stories don't have a solid team around them, but what it does have is a good, varied, and fun collection of stories. While most of them actually use the horror to build up to a more comedic, tongue-in-cheek punchline at the end of the chapter, a couple of them are a bit more heavy in their themes. Like the one about the girl finds the corpse of a naked woman, or the one about the baby in the locker. The art on this one also ended up being a selling point, to me at least. While it's not horrific in style like something like Junji Ito, it has a pretty unique and recognizable art style. And when it comes to the more disgusting and gory parts, Takahashi definitely delivers. And finally we have Utsuroboros by mangaka Uziga Waita, which is a name that is a little bit more popular in the Eroguro scene as he has written Mai-chan's Daily Life. I haven't really read Mai-chan, and in fact I've not really read anything from him but the manga I'm recommending right now, but just scrolling through his works can give you a bit of an idea of what kind of a mangaka he is. However, Utsuroboros does stand out in his bibliography, and it's not just its eye-catching cover, it's the fact that it's really the only manga from his catalog that is not really a full-on Hiroguro. Now, don't get me wrong, this manga is still written by an Hiroguro mangaka, and you can definitely see the Hiroguro elements, popping out of this one. But as someone who has actually read the genre before, Utsuroboros feels different, if not in execution, at least in the level of the gore and nudity represented in the pages. I think the most interesting things about the style and the genre of Hiroguro is that if you want to read one of them, you kind of have to leave your taboos on the side. You are almost always going to be stepping inside a story that will cover and talk about things that you may not feel comfortable talking or facing. And you just have to accept that that's going to happen. That a lot of these manga are going to be talking about things that other manga can't in ways that other manga can't. And I think that allows for some of these stories, especially those of mangaka like Shintaro Kago for example, to write premises that are just absolutely insane and weird, but are also very, very unique to the genre. Now, if the execution of those premises work and are good is a totally different conversation, but I do think that's a strong point and the main reason why I wanted to talk about Utsuroboros. Uziga Waita clearly has not let go of his ways here, and its collection offers insane premises scattered throughout the entire manga. Premises that will deliver in gory and often disgusting outcomes, but ones that are ultimately very, very interesting to read completely. While I don't necessarily think this is going to be a manga for everyone, I still wanted to put it on this list for a very specific reason. If you're someone that actually wants to experience Hiroguro manga, but you're a bit unsure about trying it out, or you don't think you can handle that kind of level of gore and nudity, or even just the topics that they talk about, well, Utsuroboros may be a good entry point. It almost feels like it's the middle point between Hiroguro and, more normal horror manga. And I also think it has a bit more quality than your average Hiroguro, although, that's not necessarily hard. And that's 5. If you want 5 more recommendations, Maskman and I went through 5 horror manga that you may like in this video on the left, and the playlist on the right includes all my horror related videos, including more recommendations, my favorite horror manga, and some videos on horror manga history. Do check it out. And if you watched till here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.